Welcome back. I wanted to do a video on the first meadow mowing of the year, but my lawnmower needed a little more maintenance than I thought it would, so I'm going to do a plant update. And I'm going to start with the one that's kind of making me the happiest now. This is Tiny Tim tomatoes. I'm going to put my hand down beside them so you'll see how big they are. These are the biggest tomatoes, and I mentioned this from this very plant one time before. So I have 6 large tomatoes, large for a Tiny Tim, grown here. All of my other plants add tomatoes, I would say half this size. They were averaging about 5 grams. And so I have 5 large ones here. And up there, same thing. Every tomato that this plant's putting out seems to be large tomatoes. So I'm going to save seed from this one. And that's going to be my Tiny Tim seed stock going forward. Of course, the multi-year kill in the grow room, the one that was damaged the most, he's doing just what I expected him to do. He's putting out several sprouts down the bottom here. So now, let's talk about what I planted. Remember, I planted this, I think it was the last video actually. I planted these out. The corn and stringless green beans aren't growing, but all the rest of them. So that's stringless blue lake in there. So these are older seeds. The stringless blue lake, you don't see anything coming up yet. Stringless green pod, they're older seed. And the Gas Bay Flint corn. Oh, corn is coming up. Look at that. Those two are up. So these, if I get very poor germination, I'm not surprised. But in there, every one of them is coming up. That's Cherokee wax. And then the rest of the beans, they're up here. And as you can see, they're coming up. And as I was saying, I'd probably get better germination this way, putting them on the wicking mat. And Jacob's cattle, as came up, every single one of them are growing. That's the black turtle, once again, and the soldier bean in there. There is a couple that doesn't show signs of growing yet, but most of them are up. This was my experiment. They're growing leggy, as you can see. Now this is the rutabaga that I was going to transplant out. I am going to, in the next few days, put these out, as well as the beets. Now speaking of the beets, remember, beet quote seed is actually a fruit. And you see, I put in 1 beet seed, but there's actually 4 plants growing up in this cell here. And there's 2 in this one. I don't know if there's another one underneath there or no. So unless it does something like that, where the first one lifts the seed out of the ground, then you can get 3 or 4 beets growing from 1 seed. So I have these in the germination capsules, and I'm putting them in little containers as they germinate. So all of the vegetable marrow now I've germinated, and I put them in there, and they're growing pretty fast. But it'll be maybe a week and a half, and I'll be able to put them outside anyway. The cucumbers are a little slower, but I have some that are germinated and growing. And this is nice. We got bush crop cucumber. So all of the bush crop cucumber are up apparently. And the rest of this is the kiwi. I put some kiwi out in the greenhouse. I'll show you those in a little bit. This is, see what I've got done? Shed Wars Bennings Green Tint. I just put this in there this morning. Then Dill's Atlantic Giant. So the ones that are Shed Wars, I put down Shed Wars because I have my own plants of Bennings Green Tint growing. You see, here's the other tiny Tim, and you see how small the tomatoes are now. They are extra small, but they didn't grow much bigger than this. Most of them I just get maybe 3 slices out of a one this size. Let's compare. So here's the big ones in my hand here. This is the normal size I would get. You see how much bigger the tomatoes are from this plant. Remember Golden Nugget, that I was thinking it might be a good indoor plant? Well, they're easy to germinate. They're just starting to flower now, and see I have a tomato growing right here. I don't know how big they'll grow yet because I've never grown them before, but you just do your normal shake it or blow on it or whatever to get the flowers to shake, and they germinated. So that part is okay, but it doesn't grow bushy like the tiny Tim does, you see. I have a few what they call suckers if you're going to do a regular vine, but not bushing out thickly like a tiny Tim. So I don't know about that. Here's our carrot experiment that we're going to do transplants. And of course I had to do it with the Shed Wars. I'll be transplanting these now tomorrow maybe. You can see, I hope you can anyway, every one of them are out of the ground. Now, even here in the sunroom, you can see a little stalk underneath the plant. Where are we? You see? So they come up, they got a little stalk, and they got 2 leaves. Now, if you were to plant that outside, you wouldn't see that stalk. The leaves will open up when it's barely out of the soil, and it would look like 2 little blades of grass. That one is that's the Denver's 126. And over there, most of them are up, not all of them, but most. That's the Scarlet Mantis. So I will take these individually as they're germinated. I know they're going to grow, and I'll just plunk them down in the ground just like that. Now, as for mine, I did a germination test and it seemed to do well, but they haven't germinated as well as the new seed from Haas Tools. They are, however, I just got to make sure I'm zooming in on the right one here, right there. They are germinating. Now there's quite a few throughout this, but they're just barely up like that. And so these are going to take a little longer. Now that might be because I don't have them perfectly clean as well. That extra bit on the seed might make them take longer to germinate. So that's that tray. And this is the other tray, and the same thing. I've got one germinated here, 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 here. They're just barely, I can see the little curl. There's none of mine that are up with their leaves open yet, but quite a few, and looking at that, I'll easily have enough to fill out one bed. How many we'll have, of course, that's a matter of time will tell. Here's some more I planted this morning. The seeds were germinated. Vegetable spaghetti, dark green zucchini, Ronda Nice zucchini, Deal's Atlantic Giant. Here's the rosemary that I have planted in the big planter in the sunroom, and it's growing excellent. I have another one to show you. I guess I'm going to have to get some seed and start a new plant to get the sweet marjoram to grow good. It's not, that one don't want to grow. But boy, do I have a trouble with the fungus gnats. And this is the only way I've got to control them yet, is the paper catching the adults. I look at in the stores when I go in to see if they have that other stuff for the larvae, but I haven't gotten any yet. This pepper, I think, is succumbing, and that one over there, to the fungus gnats. I mean, you get the ones and you're like, oh, there's a lot of aphids on here, but it's really not the aphids that's killing it. It's weakened by the fungus gnats, and then the whiteflies and the aphids come in, because if you look over at this one, no aphids, because it's a stronger plant. The background noise, my neighbor is just getting his boat ready to go out in the water, so they have to do a flush on the engine first. I'm hardening off the plants. You see these here, so they'll be planted in the next couple of days. That's shed wars. I'm going to put these out by one of the trees in the food forest. That's the blue curled Scotch. Those, I'm kind of happy. I got quite a few nice looking plants. See, broccoli arcadia. What are these? These are kohlrabi in here. I don't really understand. You see these plants in here, they're dying. It's early curled Simpson lettuce. So, but I've got other ones in these paper cups. These are smaller, but they're doing much better in these paper cups, and I'm wondering if it's not because these cups can breathe, whereas the plastic, of course, don't. And if I were to swing around, you see how huge this is. All shed wars stuff these plants are getting, and they still look healthy. They are in the paper cups as well, see? Big paper cups, and I'm thinking that the paper cup, like I said, would breathe better. There's some cauliflower. They're kind of saying, oh, what are you doing to me? Put me out in the sun, but they're coming along. This here is butterfly milkweed, and this is one of the things they seem to be succumbing to me trying to harden them off. But as you see, there's two spaces. I had two that was doing okay, so I put them out with the trees, which I'll show you in a bit. I put my tomatoes, this is the first time I had my tomatoes out. The other plants I had them out several days. I put them in milk crates because they're so tall. If I were to put them in just low trays, very little wind would just knock them right over. And also I can put the sticks up against the sides and strap them up to it to keep them stable. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are mine. This one I put in 9 different varieties. When I get them hardened off, I'm going to give them to my neighbour. The 2 onions here with the biggest growth on, that was the ones that I had put in pots earlier. This one is Australian brown. It finally decided to sprout, so it's growing. The conserva shallots over there, they're still not showing any sign of growth yet. These are the Brussels sprouts, and they're going to go to seed. See this? The flower head has already started. And the red cabbage back there, I can't see the screen very well, see? Here we are. Here's the red cabbage. So now I can't let them both go to seed. I think for these, I'm going to keep these from going to seed. I'll cut off the flower heads. You can use these as, what did they call it? Rapini or something like that? The flower stalks. You just take this bud when just before the flowers opens, and it'd be like the sprouting broccoli. I don't want those to flower because these are going to flower. Now this is the several-year-old cabbage plant that I was telling you about. I tried to get the seed before, but I was too late, and the pods bust open and the seed started to germinate, so I was too late to get seed from them. So this year, I'm going to make sure I get seed from this one. These are some kind of weird thing. Remember I took up the weird turnip looking thing last year? Well, once again, I can take, of course the leaves are edible, and you get the flower heads as a sort of rapini type thing. Okay, this is wonderful. I direct sowed California poppy all along here, and so I was checking every day, and I just noticed now, you see I have one growing right there. So now that it's growing there from seed, it'll grow up to a fairly big plant here in this first season. Actually, it's a reseeding annual, so it grows from seed every year. I will check along here and see if I can find any more and let you know how many is growing. Hopefully that's in focus. I can't see the screen. Anyway, I found 4 more along this first stretch of fence, so that's 5 in all, unless something prevents them from going all the way to seed. Now I have California poppy along the front fence from this time going forward, because they are reseeding annual, and they reseed here just as easily as chamomile does. Along the fence, the Evergreen hardy perennial onions, they're still looking pretty straggly, but I mean they're alive, so as summer progresses, maybe they'll begin to look more substantial. You see, speaking of putting kia among the food forest, I have a small one planted right here, and it looks healthy enough, and it's a little tiny guy, but it's still healthy enough, and it's planted underneath the maple tree. It's on the south side of the maple tree, so it'll get plenty of light, and I will put some fertilizer and compost around it during the summer at some point. This is actually part of the Shed Wars garden, you see, because the new Shed Wars bed and the 2 beds up right there. But right now we're close to the old greenhouse, so let's go in there.
I've got a lot to do, and I will take the panes of glass I got, and I'll go put a row along the bottom, and as I work up I'll remove the plastic and put a pane of glass in its place. But I have to sit you down. This is just an old storm door, and I've got it leaning here right now because I will have to make a frame for the door itself. The opening is not big enough for the door, but there's a clip up there on top of the storm doors for where that spring hooks on. So it's hooked onto a board up there and touching the ground. That's basically what's holding it up right now. And I have to do that to get in. It's still hooked on that board up there. This is inside. See all the cardboard I have? I need to put another table out here, which I'm going to do in the next couple of days. I got to move that cardboard back and put something there. 48 black locust seedlings, that is. And then over here, there is 5 more. So that gives me 53 black locusts. This is the butterfly milkweed that I mentioned earlier. See, I have 2 good ones, and I didn't want to lose them, so I said I'll put them in the greenhouse with the trees, and I won't lose them then. And I'm going to let them grow up a fair size, because it is a fair size plant, butterfly milkweed. And so I do some more research and I'll decide if I want more than 2 or what. The red mulberries, those of course are the honey locusts. I've got what do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and I have one more. No, this is a Osage orange, so there's 9 here. I have one more started in the house. And the rest is somewhere around 40 red mulberry. So there is over 100 trees here. And then these down here, these are the Kiwi Vines that I moved out. They are doing just excellent. So I have those beautiful Kiwi Vines, and the ones in the house, they're still quite small, but I will have quite a few Kiwi Vines as well. What I'm trying to do is just quickly point out all of the good points of the plants, and just a short overview. And these strawberry looking plants, that's the pineberry that I moved down. I'm going to have to get down closer like this because I can't see the screen, and they're doing well. St. John's wort plants, they're growing good all along here. Give you a look at the forsythia when they're out in full bloom. They come out in bloom first, and then their leaves come out afterwards. That's the herbs, 2 herb beds. There's 2 things here that I want to show you in this video. To start with, I'm going to have to try to see that screen somehow. Okay, you see that plant right at the tip of my finger? That is a chamomile plant. That's what they look like just as they come out. Well, it's got its first set of true leaves now. The only other thing I want to say, remember the rosemary? So it was still alive there when I took the bucket off it, but yeah, it's quite dead now. We did get some frost since I took the bucket off, but not very low. I mean, maybe, I think -2 it got down to. So much for growing rosemary outside around here. Yeah, that's a little update on what I thought was interesting among the plants that I have growing. Hope you enjoyed it. Hit the like button for me if you did, and I'll see you in the next video.